So I've had a really kind of interesting intellectual journey throughout the course of my education, through the course of my life. And, I started out studying science. That was kind of my first love. As a freshman, I loved taking physics and understanding the intricate details and the mechanisms underneath, the laws of nature. It was just so interesting in studying chemistry and biology and all these different fields. For me, it was very difficult to zone in on one particular major. It was very hard to focus in that way. And so I think a lot of that came from this excessive curiosity. I wanted to know about so many things. This curiosity led me in these directions. I'm terrible with Wikipedia because I want to keep clicking different entries, keep reading these things. And yet, at some point, I need to figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life. What am I supposed to focus on? And so eventually I did get a degree in chemistry, but then I moved to theology. And then eventually I moved and did my doctorate in philosophy. And I think that philosophy was the final destination in this way because it kind of unifies all those different interests that I had. Particularly, one specialization I have in philosophy is epistemology. How do we know? How do we get to know things about the physical world, about the natural world through science? But also, how do we know about God? How can we know if God exists? How can we understand what He wants for us? How can we understand Scripture? All those things are kind of unified by this question of knowledge. What is knowledge? How can we have it? Right? And so this is one of the passions that I have. And then once philosophy was there as this kind of central hub, then it allowed me to think about these different subjects in the way that they interact with each other. So another passion of mine is the dialogue, the interface between religion and science. How do we think about the ways in which these things interact with each other? How can we think about the nature and God's relationship with nature? These are the things that I really enjoy teaching, really enjoy kind of geeking out with students during office hours or just talking after class about these things. And I can see that also in their faces. They love talking about these things, and I love seeing the light bulbs turning on in their eyes when we talk through some of these really difficult topics, and yet the understanding is dawning, and they too feel that same pleasure of being able to come to understanding about these topics, to bring into synthesis all these things that may at first seem incompatible with each other, or may it seem such disparate ideas, and yet they can be found to have this deep underlying unity, particularly in the way that we think about the world as God's world. And so these are some of the things that kind of animate me as a professor, that make me really excited to teach my students each day here at Fox.